Today I'm going to teach you the Suzette stitch. Now the Suzette stitch is a fantastic stitch for beginners. It makes a beautiful closed knit pattern that combines the single crochet and the double crochet. Now I've decided to change colours every second row. Sorry, I do 2 rows and then change, so every third row I change colour, mainly because I've got so much wool I need to use. I thought I'd make this really fun multicoloured blanket. Now there are 2 options for the Suzette stitch. You can have it with this really nice sort of wavy edge, where you wouldn't need to put a band on the edge or finish it off. You could just leave it like that. And the other option is to have a straight edge, and then you can do a border if you want. And I'm going to show you both today. Okay, so we're going to learn quite a few things today. So get your little notebook out and let's get going. So first of all, you'll need your size of your hook that you need for your blanket. I've got a 4 here, 4mm hook. And if you're going to choose to do, well, actually either chains or chainless foundation, I recommend you go up a size. It avoids that wavy pulling thing that happens with blankets. So you can go up, depending on how tight your crocheting tension is, you can go up one size hook or possibly even 2. Just experiment a bit and see how you go. Now, I know everybody starts their blankets with chains, but I've gone off chains because you can't measure the exact distance that you want if you're just making up the pattern yourself. I've started doing what we call the chainless foundation. So I'm going to start by teaching you that. If you're not interested, jump ahead and I'll just have a look at how I do the stitch. Whichever way you do it, you need to have an even number of stitches. Okay, so I'm going to use my bigger hook. I'm using the 5. And I'm just going to use a 4 Seasons Marvel, which is a nice yarn to use. My favourite, as you all know, is the Feels Like Butter. But because I've got so many balls of wool, I've decided I've got to start using them. So now this is the, let me just see what's going on here. This is the outside end of the wool, right, which I prefer not to use except when you start your chainless, because it rolls around and it gets dirty. If you can manage to find the center of your wool to use as your knitting wool, that's the best way to do it. Now I learned a little trick. Well, let's see, pardon me, see if it works. So you take the label off and then you put it there and you give it a little bounce like that, so it sort of looks a bit rounder, and then you reach in both ends and it gives you a bit of a space in the middle, and if you're really lucky, we'll see what happens. I'm going to try there, and sometimes it comes out in a big lump, which I think is what's going to happen today. But it still comes out. So there's the middle, which is going to be the main part that I use, and the outside part will be just for the chainless foundation, and then we'll be weaving it through and not using it anymore, cutting it off. So I'll just find the end of this, which I know is annoying, but it gets used up pretty quickly. So we're nearly there. It's in here somewhere. And there it is. Okay, so to start with, there's a couple of things you need to do. Now, so this is the bottom and this is the top. This is the top part of the chainless foundation, and that's the part that you're going to keep using. So that's got to be the part that comes out of the middle of your ball. Okay, now what we're going to do, I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to do a slip knot. So as I've always taught my students, the tail on the left, running yarn on the right, you make a sort of a C like that. It's a bit bumpy, but that's okay. Pinch the bit of the running yarn, put it up through the middle and pull. Now you'll know if you've done it right because the running yarn should be in control of your hoop there, stitch. Okay, so that's the top one. I'll turn it around so the running yarn's on the left again. I'll do the same with this one. Do the letter C, bring it up through the middle, pull, turn it around, make sure that the running yarn or the tail end of the yarn is pulling the loop smaller. All right, so then you put your hook in, the bottom one first, then the top one. Just give them a bit of a pull and just hook them over each other like a slip stitch. And we're off. Okay, so now you've got, this is the part of the wool that's on the outside that we're not going to use throughout the project. This is the middle part of the wool that we are. So what you do is you put your hook in the middle. This is called a chainless foundation. You put your hook in the middle and you do yarn under, and then on the top you do yarn over. And the first one you just got to hold a little bit carefully, pull it through. So that's one. Yarn under, yarn over, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yarn under, yarn over, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm just going to do 10 stitches, or just so that we can get through the rows easier. So an even number of stitches. Now this is the tail end that you can cut, and if you know how to weave it through your work, that's fantastic. I might do it while I'm going just to show you, but if you can't, you can weave it through at the end. So now we're going to change to our 4mm hook, or whatever hook you require for your project. Now we're just going to turn, we're not going to do any chains, and we're going to turn our work as if we're reading a book. Now hold it very carefully so that you can see the part that we cut is down the bottom, and the running yarn that we're going to use is at the top. And this is how we start. We go straight into that side space, and it should have 2 strands at the top. Okay, so we go straight in, yarn over, and do a single crochet. And then for this Suzette stitch, we do yarn over and we do a double crochet in the same stitch, the very first stitch. Right, now we're going to skip a stitch. I'm not going to weave that through because I don't want to confuse you with bits of wool everywhere. So we're going to skip a stitch and we're going to go straight into the 3rd stitch, and we're going to do a single crochet, and we're going to do, sorry, my wool is a little bit tangled, but it's coming good, and a double crochet. So as long as you know how to do those, it's absolutely fine. If you want to start with a chain row, that's also absolutely fine. but keep it, probably if you're just doing chains, I would do an odd number and start in the second chain. But believe me, if you get started on this chainless foundation, it's very true to the size, and you won't look back. Skip, single crochet, and a double crochet. Skip, single crochet, and double crochet. Okay, you've also got those other ends that we started with that need to be fed through, but again, it's up to you. I like to feed them through as I'm working, but it's totally up to you. Okay, so we're left with 3 stitches, which is exactly right. We're going to skip that stitch, and we're going to work in this stitch, and we're not going to touch that last stitch. And we're going to end up with that wavy edge that I was talking about. Double crochet. Okay, so leave that last stitch. Don't touch it, and turn your work as if you're turning the page of a book. You know, those things with pages that people don't necessarily look at anymore. Don't get me started. Okay, no chain to turn. There's your first stitch. We put it straight in, single crochet, double crochet. Skip a stitch to the next one. Single crochet, double crochet. Now, just a little tip. When you're skipping over stitches, you should be skipping over, I'm not sure if you can see, but it's got a bigger space there. It's actually the back of the single crochet from the first row, and you can see that the little sort of bundle that we've got there of the single and the double together are there in between those 2 bigger spaces. So you should always be jumping the stitch that's got the biggest space. I don't know if you can see that, but there it is there. If you've started jumping the one in the middle there, you need to go back and check, because it needs to be that bigger space. It should automatically do it, but just a pointer. So there it is there. We're going to skip that one. We're going to do a single crochet and a double crochet. And a single and a double. Okay, now we're at the end and we've got 3 stitches. We're going to skip over that one. We're going to go straight into that stitch. We're going to do a single and a double. And you can see that those bumps are starting to create that nice edge that I was talking to you about. Let's do one more row, and I'll keep quiet and I'll just show you how to do it. Okay, so you get an idea of how it's going to become bumpy along the side, which is really lovely if you don't want to have to do a border. If you want to do a border, I'm going to show you option B with the Suzette stitch. Okay, so I've done a few more stitches, a couple more rows so that you can see that bumpy edge. Okay, now I'm going to change to a different colour, and I'm going to show you first of all how to change colours, which is what I do after every 2 rows. But this time I'm going to show you how to get a straight edge. If you don't like that and you want to do your own border, you can definitely do it. Just a little bit of a tweak at the beginning and the end of each row. So we're up to the last 3 stitches. So I'm going to go do my single crochet, and I'll do my double crochet to finish the bumpiness. Now when you're changing your yarn, you take the very last part of your stitch. Instead of using the colour that you had, use the new colour. So I'm just going to put that across like that, hold those together, pull it through, and that's as simple as it is to change colours. Okay, so we're going to turn. Now I'll show you how to do the straight edge, just using the yellow. Okay, so as we did before, we start with a single crochet, but this time, instead of skipping and doing the double crochet in there, we're going to actually do the double crochet in that stitch that we normally skip. And then we continue on in the next stitch and we do single crochet, double crochet, skip that bigger stitch, single crochet, double crochet, single, double. Now we're up to that last part again. We've got the one that we skip, the stitch that we normally use, and then the end. So what we do is we go into that stitch and do the single crochet, but we work it into the top of that last stitch there, and you do the double crochet. Okay, so the end will look a little bit different. Then we turn, start again, we go straight into there to do the single crochet, and we do the double crochet in the next stitch. This is if you want a straight edge. And then continue on as normal, straight into that next stitch, single, double, single, double, there's the bigger space, single, double. Now we're up to the last 3 stitches again. So we skip the normal one, we do our single crochet as usual, but the double crochet will go into the top of that stitch, which is really easy to see because that's the colour that we changed. Now if you want to use a stitch marker to mark your ends and beginnings, great idea. Do it probably when you actually do the stitch. So we turn, we're going to do a single crochet, which you could put your stitch marker through so you know where it is when you're coming back, to avoid going into the wrong stitch or the wrong part of the stitch. So then we're going to do our double crochet in the stitch that we normally skip, and then we do single, double, getting into the swing of things, double back into that one, skip one, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet. Now we're at the end, and there's 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to skip that one. We're going to do our single crochet in that normal place that we do it, but our double crochet is going to go in that last stitch again. Okay, I'll take that stitch marker out. Single crochet, put your stitch marker in, double crochet, and then start the Suzette pattern of, you won't skip that one, that's the one that you go in, single, double, skip the big stitch, single, double, single, double. Now if I'm going too fast for you, you know that you can slow down this video. The talking might sound a bit funny, but you'll be able to see the stitch a bit smaller. Okay, so we're up to the last three, sorry, not smaller, slower. The work slower. So there's the stitch that we skip. We go in to do our single crochet in that stitch as usual, but to get the straight edge, we go into the last stitch that we've marked, so we know where to go, and we also avoid that problem of going out. Now I'm going to take these stitch markers out and just show you the difference between option A and option B. Okay, so ignore those because they will have been worked in. So as you can see, when we start, and we don't go to the very end, we end up with this lovely little bump that can be our edge. If you don't want that, then you do work to the end and you get this nice straight edge on both sides. And using stitch markers, which happen to match my wool, of course I planned that, not really, but you know what I mean. And definitely use stitch markers if you're going to go for this option, because it reminds you of where the last stitch is going to be. Okay, because it's easy to let your finger, if you're not thinking, you might just accidentally leave the last stitch. Stitch markers are good for this one too. Okay, you might just mark that last stitch so that you know not to go into it. All right, so that is called the Suzette stitch, and as you can see, it looks pretty much the same on both sides, which is really nice. Great for blankets, clothes, jumpers, just really warm, cozy stitch. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please let me know in my comments, and like my video and share. I would love you to share it if you could. Stay tuned for a few more different stitches.